Welcome to the place where the truth comes first. Breaking down the headlines, separating facts from the worst. No fear, no bias, no agenda to hide. Just real conversations from the other side. Hollywood lights, street stories, what's really going on?
Hey, what's up, Hollywood besties? Alan Thompson here with more Based Off. Okay, so I thought part one to this video with Fiesty, Tragedy, and Marcus was messy. Apparently, that was just the appetizer. Oh my God. Okay, first of all, let me start with this. I saw a Instagram post on Tragedy's Instagram, and Fiesty is already back outside in Atlanta with no shoes on. So she's right back to that no shoes thing. I'm just like, wow, that did not take long. Anyways, so this part two to this video, Tragedy is arguing with Marcus. You know, Marcus is demanding loyalty still, talking about threats. Feisty was bringing up threats that Marcus supposedly made towards her. Tragedy wants to box Marcus. And then Marcus is talking about footage we supposedly never saw from Tragedy and Feisty, spicy footage, because they did release, I guess, one spicy scene. So apparently there were more than just that scene, apparently. So clearly there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, which we've learned, So who knows what that footage was all about or what that was for. Makes you wonder. Somehow in all of this, Feisty and Marcus are back in business together, though. You really cannot make this up. But underneath all of the yelling and foolishness, I noticed something that I think is much more interesting. Marcus seems extremely concerned with holding everybody else accountable. Feisty needs to apologize. Tragedy needs to respect him. People shouldn't go on panels talking about him, talking about Feisty, going on these panels, talking about him. Everybody needs to understand business. Everybody needs to understand loyalty. Okay, but Marcus, when are you going to hold Marcus accountable? Because that is still the elephant standing right in the middle of Peachtree Street. Where y'all was standing in front of Ann's Barbershop on Peachtree. I'm very familiar with Peachtree Street. I used to live in Atlanta some years back. I know exactly where y'all are on Peachtree Street. And there's a big old elephant standing right there on Peachtree Street while you're doing all this extra stuff with Feisty and Tragedy. Fired? I'm sorry, what? They were fired? First of all, Marcus, you say that you've acted unusually when you fired Feisty and Tragedy. And again, fired? Excuse me? Wait a minute. Did I miss orientation? Did I miss their orientation? When did Feisty and Tragedy become employees? Where's HR? Where's payroll? Where's the benefits package? Where are the 1099s if they're contract workers? Matter of fact, since we're suddenly talking like we're running a Fortune 500 company, when was the last time everybody involved reported all of this supposed business income? Because Marcus loves putting a corporate title on some street foolishness. Let's call it what it is. 1 minute, these are people you're interviewing. Then they're your friends. Then they're your talent. Then they're fired. Then they're rehired. Then they need to kiss the ring. He was telling Feisty, kiss the ring. What exactly is this arrangement? Because it changes depending on what Marcus needs it to be that day. Then the conversation took the turn about this threat that Feisty said Marcus apparently made, according to her. Marcus is upset because Feisty has gone on different panels and spoken negatively about him. And Feisty basically says, hold on, what about what you allegedly said about me? She brings up this claim that Marcus supposedly threatened her, specifically this allegation about somebody putting hands on her head or putting a hit on her head or something like that. Now, I want to be clear here. Marcus does deny these, allegations of that threat or whatever. Fiesty and Tragedy, however, claim they have proof. So until somebody actually produces whatever evidence they're talking about, I'm treating that exactly, what it sounds like, an allegation. And we know sometimes the information that they get is not always credible, and they probably just take it and run with it. But notice the bigger issue. There is clearly a massive lack of trust between Marcus and Feisty. Yet somehow they keep coming back together. Why? Content, money, attention. And frankly, because all three of them seem to understand that this dysfunctional relationship generates interest. And then here comes Tragedy. Every 5 seconds, Tragedy has something to say. Marcus finally tells him he's one of the most exhausting people he's ever met. And I laughed because Marcus, sir, have you met yourself? I mean, really, have you met yourself? Marcus and Tragedy clash so much because, let's be real, they actually have very similar personality traits. Both want the last word, both think they're right, both like telling everybody else how things should be done, both can turn a 2-minute disagreement into a TED talk nobody asked for. They're both exhausting. Maybe that is why they can't stand each other. Sometimes the person who gets underneath your skin the most is holding up a mirror. Like I really thought about that. Like, clearly they get on each other's nerves because they're exactly the same. The only thing to me that makes it excusable for Tragedy is that he's young. I think, what is he, 29? But Marcus, you 43. What's your excuse? Then Tragedy makes a comment about how he exhausts Feisty all the time, kind of a sexual comment. And Marcus immediately goes somewhere completely different with it. He references that infamous spicy scene involving Feisty and Tragedy and says people have, of course, people have seen that video. But apparently, he brings up that there's more footage that people haven't seen. Excuse me? What exactly do we have going on over there, Marcus? Because in the one we did see you were very involved in that scene that we did see that was on that site. You were very involved and seemed to want to be involved with Feisty and Tragedy. You seem to be very, very interested in what they had going on, both of them. Because every time we pull back another layer of this Atlanta Street interview situation, it poses more questions. And let's not forget, based on what we've already seen and heard discussed publicly about that spicy situation, Marcus didn't exactly sound like somebody horrified by the idea. Again, he seemed very interested. Like I said, I don't subscribe to that site, but I have people that have given me, access and showed me certain things. So I did peep that one. And Marcus seemed very interested in that scenario. I mean, he definitely plays more than the role of just a cameraman. I'll leave it at that. And this is what keeps throwing me. Marcus is 43 years old. Tragedy is 29. Feisty is 32. But sometimes watching Marcus interact with them, you would think all three of them are the same age. Like, you would think Marcus is 29 or 30, in the same age group. And that's not even to throw, any shade toward Feisty and Tragedy, because I mean they're young. You kind of expect that more so from, again, that age group. You're still not fully matured at that age, so you can kind of give them a pass. But Marcus, I'm just saying, Marcus constantly positions himself as the older businessman, mentor, voice of wisdom and authority until the foolishness starts. Then suddenly everybody is on the same playground. Marcus then takes a jab at Tragedy by talking about how he gets breakfast and dinner made for him every day. Sir, okay, congratulations on breakfast. You want a medal for that or something? That your whoever this girl is, that's the mother of your baby, does that for you? Because if you're talking about the young woman you've been in a relationship with, which we all know who she is, won't mention her name because you don't want her, involved in this content or whatever. somebody who originally entered your world through the interview environment, with whom now you share a child with. I'm not sure why this is supposed to be some giant flex. You're talking like somebody just delivered you a trophy. Breakfast and dinner? Okay. But you're 43 years old. Why are you even having this conversation while arguing with a 29-year-old man on the sidewalk? I mean, really, grow up. I mean, great. She's giving providing you breakfast. I mean, if y'all together, you have a child together. I mean, isn't that kind of standard? And then on top of that, why are you not married to her? I mean, at this point, you have a child with her. Put a ring on her finger. And I'm calling cap on a lot of that, anyways, because yeah, I hear the words, but again, we haven't even seen, this baby's mother, and we don't know really what's going on in that scenario. So who's to say he's even telling the truth about that? Now, here's where I'm going to keep it real about Feisty too. So Feisty did admit she called Marcus. So let's not pretend Marcus tracked her down and dragged her back to Atlanta Street interview. She did call him, but why wouldn't she? Feisty has become, kind of a celebrity within the Atlanta Street interviews universe. This platform has given her visibility. She needs the money. Marcus needs the content. There's a mutually beneficial relationship. That's exactly why I don't buy this narrative that Marcus is doing Feisty some enormous favor by allowing her back. They need each other right now. I mean, clearly. Maybe not equally, but both sides are getting something, and Marcus knows Feisty gets attention. Eventually, Marcus and Feisty reach this ridiculous little reconciliation where Marcus tells that Feisty that she needs to kiss the ring. He kept saying it. So Feisty gives him one of the least convincing, my bad apologies I've ever heard. And suddenly we're back in business. Then Marcus gives this speech about being a businessman and explains why he's willing to give her another opportunity. And he calls himself Otis, which apparently means overly taking income seriously. Okay, Otis. But let's translate what really happened. Feisty generates content. Marcus knows Feisty generates content. Marcus wants content. Therefore, Marcus is willing to overlook whatever supposedly made him quote unquote fire her in the first place. That's business? Fine. Then just say that. Don't make it sound like you're giving this woman a make a wish. Really. Just call it what it is. That's the one thing that annoys me the most about Marcus. He gives you all these word salads and, tries to make things seem like a certain way. Be real. That's what it boils down to. Can you ever just be real? Anyways, in Tragedy, he's in the background basically saying what I've been saying. You need her. Marcus immediately pushes back to him. He says, no, he doesn't, because he's got Ileana in tone. And they've got this whole paternity test storyline. Now, Marcus, newsflash. We've been watching, and that storyline is not giving what you think is given. You have stretched this paternity situation across how many videos now? We still don't even know the results. And after disappearing for a couple of days, that was the storyline you came back with. Meanwhile, Feisty comes back to Atlanta, and suddenly we're getting drama, arguments, reunions, and chaos again. And Marcus himself has previously talked about the losses and impact surrounding everything that's happened. Since Feisty left, and then, of course, the underage allegations, he already had talked about the huge loss he suffered. So let's stop pretending Feisty's return has absolutely no value. And another thing, we gotta touch on this. Marcus is suddenly using Ileana and Tone as proof that everything is perfectly fine. But we watched that relationship with Marcus go left one too many times before with Ileana and Tone. We've literally seen these two running to get away from him. So everybody's useful while they're useful until somebody gets mad. Then they're disloyal. Then they're ungrateful. Then they're cut off. Then eventually what? They're back. Sound familiar? And so this is where the video really stopped being funny to me. Marcus starts talking about everything he supposedly was supposedly preparing to do before the allegations involving the underage girl surfaced. The content house, the expansion of the channel, the plans, the business, everything that was supposedly coming. And I'm sitting here thinking, Marcus, do you hear yourself? You're describing a life and business operation that you believe was moving in one direction, and then something happened and everything changed. So maybe instead of obsessing over Feisty's loyalty, instead of lecturing tragedy, instead of demanding apologies, instead of telling everybody else what they did wrong, perhaps, just perhaps, it's time for some self reflection. Because regardless of what ultimately happens with these allegations, and allegations are not the same thing as proven facts, the controversy surrounding Marcus has clearly affected the environment around Atlanta Street interviews. You can't simply upload enough videos until the questions disappear. They haven't disappeared. People are still watching, people are still asking questions, and trying to force everything back to business as usual doesn't erase any of it. Okay, and then things got really heated. Tragedy had been challenging Marcus to box throughout this whole video. And eventually he gets like directly in Marcus's face. So then the energy, it really did shift, it changed. Because it was like Tragedy, even though we have seen he really can't box, he can't fight, he was really seemingly trying to fight Marcus. So it was like it really was not two people joking anymore. So these YNs nearby, they came and they started watching. One of them pulled out his phone, was recording, and all of a sudden you could kind of tell Marcus was getting a little uncomfortable because that's kind of what Marcus does. He does all that laughing until somebody really gets serious with him, and then you can kind of hear in his voice where he gets uncomfortable. But he still did that laugh. He kind of does a little laugh. Y'all know the laugh I'm talking about. And then this man decides it's time to become a motivational speaker in this moment. And he turns to one of the young guys that was standing near him and starts saying something along the lines of, let me tell you something about life, man. You don't want a situation like this to end up costing you or taking you off the street. And the young man was basically, didn't say anything back to him, gave him nothing. And Marcus finally realizes and says something like, "Oh, you're not listening to me one bit, are you?" And then so he just kind of cut the video to like the next part of the video after that. And it's like, no, Marcus, he's not. And why would he? Look at what's going on. You standing on Peachtree Street arguing and yelling with Tragedy. People have their phones out. Everybody's watching the chaos. And now in the middle of it, you want to turn around and become Professor Marcus and give a young man a life lesson? I mean, young people can see contradictions. If there's anybody that's going to tell you when somebody not being real, it's going to be a YN. You can't tell somebody don't behave like this while you're actively behaving like this. The best lesson would have been demonstrating the behavior you were trying to teach. Oh, wow. Isn't that something? Demonstrating the behavior you're trying to teach. You do a whole bunch of talking, Marcus, but your behavior don't ever line up with anything you tell these young men. And because this entire situation apparently needed one more layer of foolishness, the video ends with Fiesty and Tragedy arguing with each other. Of course it does. Of course. I mean, what else would have happened? Marcus and Fiesty reconcile. Marcus and Tragedy nearly get into it. Random people start recording. Marcus gives an unsolicited motivational speech. And then Fiesty and Tragedy start fighting amongst themselves. I guess, this is the content that everybody wanted back. No? I mean, I don't know. Back to what? I mean, I don't know. Because that is exactly why I keep saying the same thing. There's plenty of content here. There's plenty of drama. There's plenty to laugh at. But underneath it all, there is still a bigger issue. And that is still what keeps slapping me in my face every time I watch any videos he's been dropping lately. Because Marcus seems determined to get the machine running again. Get back to Feisty, get Tragedy involved, get Ileana and Tone filming, talk about the content house, talk about business, talk about loyalty, talk about who owes him an apology, talk about who needs to kiss the ring. But Marcus, when are you going to be real with yourself and look in the mirror? When are you going to look at yourself and ask, what decisions did I make? What relationships did I create? What boundaries did I blur? Why have so many relationships around this platform repeatedly exploded? And why does everything that goes wrong always seem to become somebody else's lesson to learn? Because you can call yourself Otis, overly taking income seriously all you want. Maybe right now you need another acronym. OTAS, OTAS, overly taking accountability seriously. Yeah, that's who you are, OTAS. Because demanding accountability from everybody around you while refusing to seriously examine yourself, that's not leadership. That ain't business. And screaming about loyalty isn't going to fix it. The allegations surrounding Marcus remain allegations until facts establish otherwise, but the questions aren't going anywhere simply because Feisty is back on camera. And maybe that's the biggest sign Marcus should be paying attention to. While you're trying desperately to rebuild everything that existed before, maybe you need to ask yourself why it fell apart in the first place. How about that? Why are you in the position you're in right now? It's not about Feisty. It's not about, her not being loyal and you did me wrong and why this, why that. Why are you in this position right now? Why don't you address that elephant in the room? Because again, we have not forgot about the allegations with this underage girl. Time might be seeming like it's slow to catch up, but homeboy, you better look in the mirror and get real with yourself. All right, base crew. After watching part 2, I don't think Marcus learned a damn thing, but I do want to know what you think. Is Marcus really giving Feisty another opportunity, or does Marcus need Feisty more than he's willing to admit? And who is actually more exhausting, Marcus or Tragedy? I already have the answer to that. It's definitely Marcus. Because again, he's a 43-year-old man. Anyways, sound off below in the comments, y'all. This is Alan Thompson with more Based Off. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Hey, make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment, turn on those notifications. And also, don't forget about our memberships. We have 2 levels. The first level is based Pinot Noir, $4.99 a month. Second level is based Cabernet, and that one's at $9.99 a month. Hey, join the movement, join the channel, y'all. This is a movement, and you'll get some great perks with those 2 different levels of membership. All right, base crew, I'll catch y'all in the next one.
Yeah. Welcome to the place where the truth comes from.
Thanks for watching More Based Off. If you enjoyed today's video, please like, subscribe, comment, and share this video with someone who would enjoy it too. Your support helps to grow the channel. If you'd like to support the channel even further, my Cash App is on the screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.